Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sunday, November 6th, 2011. This is Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com. Today, I am joined by some special guests, and I'm excited because usually my shows are uncovering the nasty side of things, and today is going to be a little lighter. It's actually going to be about solutions, which a lot of the listeners like to learn about. And my guests today have actually done it themselves. They've gone from city living to sustainable living in the countryside. And I couldn't think of 2 better people to bring on and explain and talk and just go over this stuff. And hopefully you guys will glean some sort of knowledge from this. So get your pads and your pens out. Make sure you check the archive for the stream and pay attention today, because today's show is going to be good. Now, I want to introduce you to them, but I want to cover something really quick. Their names are not made up. Their names are real. Okay, and I have no control over their names. So it's going to sound funny when you hear me introduce their names, because it's Popeye introducing 2 other people that, you know, they sound like people might relate to them and say, oh, it sounds like fake names, but they're not. Okay, so it just so happens that that's the way it is. Sorry, but that's the way life is sometimes, you know. Anyway, I'd like to introduce Natasha and Boris. Say hello, guys.
Hey, what's up, Popeye?
How's it going?
You guys are writing a book, before I forget. You guys are writing a book about all this, correct?
Yeah, we're writing,
Okay.
It's about the New World Order, the first book, because we're trying to keep it not too big, and then the second book will be about the stuff we're talking about tonight.
Okay. Do you guys have a working title for it yet, or no?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, that's not a big deal. So I know most of the time authors don't come out with the title until sometimes right beforehand anyway. So I want to get right into it. You, Natasha, used to live down here in Florida, and in South Florida in particular, in a very city-esque, busy area down here. And now you live a rather rural life with chickens and goats and the such. How much of a culture shock was it for you, and how were you able to get over it so that the listeners can glean some knowledge so that maybe they can use, the tips that you have maybe to get through it? How did you get through the culture shock of going from the city to the countryside like that?
I dealt with it pretty well. I was pretty sick of South Florida. I hated living in the concrete jungle. Before I moved, I didn't want to leave my house because I was just so over it. But so I actually transitioned pretty well. I mean, it takes a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it. Definitely.
When you guys went out there, was it obviously you were in the mood to get out. Give the listeners an idea kind of what's a good way, when you got out there, before you guys went, obviously you guys didn't just run out there with nothing. You figured at least a plan of action out until you got out there. Was it that hard? I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's so difficult to alter your life and stuff like that. Did you find that it really wasn't that hard to do it and alter your life?
No, I don't think it was hard. I think it was interesting and fun so far. Going from, living in a place where there's 100,000 people and then going out to a place where there's 2,000 people, I think there is now out here. So it's peaceful.
See, that's I know the difference. I've seen both ends, and I think it's an awesome juxtaposition. But I guess if you're ready to do it, it's probably much easier. Now, you guys have your own goats and chickens and everything. You guys even shoot on your own property. The county or the city that you guys live in, they don't mess with you?
No. The place where we're living, the people before were shooting, and the neighbors didn't like it. So they called the police, and the police came by and asked, what the problem was. They said they're making a racket back there shooting. They're like, oh, okay, what's the problem? They're like, well, we want you to make them stop. So they ended up going back there and shooting with the people who were, shooting, pretty much telling the neighbors that there's nothing they could do about it. They're on their own land.
Yeah.
So the cops ended up shooting with the people that were shooting there.
Yep.
That's the way it should be.
Exactly.
You see, that's the way it's supposed to be. So good. There are some pockets of this country that are still the way they're supposed to be. Because, of course, it figures you guys had to have the neighbor. Oh, and somebody in the chat room said Popeye sounds like a city boy. No, I grew up in the verge between the city and the country, and I've experienced both. But I'm used to the city, and in a lot of places, even rural areas, a lot of the sheriffs and local cops are now being dicks and cracking down on people that even shoot on their own property. So it is still nice to see that there are pockets of this country that still have things the way they should be. It's nice to see that total tyranny hasn't taken place. I do like to see that people can exercise their Second Amendment. I grew up around guns. I grew up hunting and stuff, but everywhere I've ever lived and most places I've seen, and I have friends that even live out in rural areas, you can't shoot on your property anymore because for one reason or another they try to find some reason to demonize you. And again, like you guys stated, the neighbor was being some nanny, wimpy, whiny. Oh, they're shooting guns and making noise. Make them stop. And the cop's like, We can't do anything. You know, that's good. I'm glad that it's still like that. I'm glad this country hasn't gone that far down the tubes yet. So it gives me a little hope.
They were city folk, as they put them. The ones that were complaining were from the city, so it was funny because all the country people were laughing at them because they're just like, look at these city folk.
Well, it's funny, you know, when you come from a city, when you've been in the city for a while, it's amazing that even when you know things exist, you see things that should be the norm, and you're like, wow, it's so nice to be able to be normal. It's really strange. That's where the world is going to nowadays. All right, guys, we're going to get cut off by the break, so stay there. Listeners, stay tuned. We'll be right back. More solutions on the other side. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm hanging out with Boris and Natasha, who were urbanites. They lived in the city. Now they are living out in the country, and very sustainably, I may add. Real sustainable living. Not this fake, green, fake, agenda crap, but real, actual sustainable living. And the first thing I wanted to get into with them was the whole how do you get the farm thing, because not many people have money. And Natasha was explaining to me that there's a lot of people that are actually like almost financing to buy, rather than pay rent. You pay the monthly rent, but you're literally paying the property off while you live on it. So I wanted to get into that a little bit because not many people know about it. I'm not really an expert on it, and Natasha herself does know, a decent amount about it. So, Natasha, how do people go about this, and what exactly is the process?
Well, pretty much it's up to you as to, what do you want to do? Do you want a homestead, whereas you want to bring in as little as possible from the outside world, and you want to provide everything for yourself? That would be a homestead. You might decide that maybe a homestead isn't for you. You want to buy things in the store still, but you want to be able to provide your own milk. So you want some dairy goats, and maybe you want a couple eggs, so you want some chickens. It's really up to you what you want to do. As far as finding land, once you decide what it is that you want, then you can buy the amount of land in the house that would cater to whatever it is you're trying to do. You might want to have the land so you can do some kind of business, so you can make money while you're there with this land. You could maybe do something from home, or you work from home, and you have the land as a supplemental income.
Well, how you were telling me that some people were financing it, right? There's a lot of people that don't even want to deal with the banks anymore because of their distrust for the banks, and it's actually starting to go back to the way things used to be, in the older days. So basically, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of these people they're selling their farms and stuff or whatever, or their properties, but rather than go through the bank, they work out a deal, a contract, obviously, on paper, but a better one nonetheless, because the banks aren't involved. And basically you'd be paying off the owner of the property monthly like you were paying rent, but you'd literally be paying off the monthly mortgage payment, for lack of a better term. And a lot of owners are doing that, you said, correct?
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that, especially out here. People want to get rid of their houses, so they're providing owner finance. And
so that's what it's called, owner financing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
exactly.
I couldn't remember the name of it, but I knew it was called something. Is there once you get the place and everything, how how hard is it to maintain the chickens and the goats? I mean, realistically, because people are going to ask this question. So, I mean, is it expensive, monthly with the feed? Is it a real pain in the rear end? Or how much effort does it take to actually do this? Because some people are going to be, well, I have to work, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. So you both have jobs. So how do you find time, or does it take a bunch of your time? How do you fit it into your schedule with everything and still working like like normal, like most people, where you both have jobs? How do you fit it in?
Well, depending on what size of a operation you want to go for, the chickens are relatively easy and low maintenance. As long as you have a good shelter for them to go in at night, we let them run free pretty much throughout the whole property all day. And when the sun starts to go down, they just jump right, into their spot where they're supposed to be. Feed-wise, they get most of their food outside, grass and bugs and worms and whatnot. With the goats, it's we have them at first in an electric fence to get them used to the property, and then we let them out into the larger part of the pasture, which is about 5 acres. So they have, all their room to run. They love trees and branches and stuff like that, what they can reach better than, say, grass. So they take care of that stuff first. They're like weed eaters, so you just let them go and they'll clear out a spot for you in no time. So they take care of their own food pretty much.
You have your own landscaping crew.
Yes,
yeah, pretty much. They can clear out an area really fast. I mean, and at the same time, they're fertilizing the ground. So when you want to plant later, it's fertilized for you. If you had some pigs, you can put the pigs in there and they'll till it for you. It's about making it so you don't have to do as much of the work. They're doing the work for you. We give them some grain. But we're doing it less and less as they get older. When they're young, you kind of have to give them some grain, but as they get older, they're less expensive to keep.
So when you guys are feeding them, obviously you don't even have to worry about feeding them half the time, because they're just chilling out and roaming around the yard at any time of the day, and if they're hungry, they'll nibble on something, and it kind of helps you with the landscaping. So that is very sustainable. You're taking care of the landscaping. You don't have to worry about the grass clippings or anything, and you're actually recycling it, I guess you could say. Yeah. And then you guys get milk from the goats, right?
Yeah, we haven't started milking them yet. We're in the process of building a milk stand.
It's important to have everything ready beforehand.
Yeah. So, but also, one of them, they have to get used to you also. It's not like you just get the goat and they're like, here, let me milk you, if they're not used to being milked. These goats are not, so we're kind of, training them to be used to us and letting us, pet them and clip you have to trim their hooves every once in a while and stuff like that. And then, gradually then you work yourself into, getting intimate with them and milking them.
I got you. So you got to kind of get the goat used to you touching it and everything else, and then used to the surrounding area, I guess. You can kind of alleviate the stress on the animal so it gets used to everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That makes sense. When it comes to the chickens, how is it really a big process to have a chicken coop and everything else? Is it like cleaning up and maintaining? I guess not. You don't clean the chickens, but like cleaning up after them, basically. I guess if you have a proper chicken coop, it's probably built to make that efficient or whatever. But that, I guess, doesn't take too much time either, and I guess you could pretty much just put some water in their little water trough or whatever and put feed down once a day or whatever, and they're good to go, right?
Yeah, pretty much. We had we have several buildings that were here when we moved onto the property, and we just used what was there and built onto it. So they have a 2-gallon water and a 2-gallon feeder that just sits in their coop, and they eat that at night, or whenever they're around. And then as far as cleaning up, we just rake up the hay that's, the floor and put underneath that, and then that goes in the compost. So it's all used.
So it's all sustainable, and it all ends up being composted and then used for, growing plants and gardening. Wow, that's real sustainable living. That's the way to do it. Cut down on your waste, your real carbon footprint. I hate that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. I hope you're taking notes because it's a lot easier than I thought so far. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're talking sustainable living. In the last segment, Natasha and Boris were explaining to everybody exactly how easy it is to live sustainably. And I myself was actually surprised just listening to them how it's not really that much effort. I mean, obviously they had to build up the chicken coops and stuff, but like Boris was saying, they had some structures on the property. He fixed them up and turned them into the chicken coops. And running it, once you get everything up and running, it doesn't even sound like it takes that much maintenance. In fact, having a goat apparently is like having a lawnmower with feet. So, that sounds like it's a good thing. You guys grow your own food on the property?
Yeah, right now we don't have, we have some tomato plants that kind of got a little bit of the freeze, but we're going to try to salvage them. We're building a hoop house, actually. We were working on it today, and we're going to plant some veggies so we have stuff through the fall and the winter.
That's cool. And you guys can can your own stuff and do all that.
Yeah, we got canned supply.
You guys have a wood stove or a fireplace?
We actually do have a wood stove out in the tool shop area, and we have some kerosene heaters that we use for heat. And we're going to get a new wood stove for the living room. We just haven't gotten one yet. We'll wait till the kerosene runs out.
Yeah, I hear that. But
we have plenty of wood.
You both lived in cities and stuff before. Do you find that your life is just more pleasurable and pleasant? And I don't want, maybe pleasurable is the wrong word. Like you feel better health-wise. Just everything is. Do you feel that everything is? I mean, obviously it's a change. So do you feel that inside and out it's a change for the better from where you were?
Yeah, I mean, I was working in the computer industry, and it's just very stressful. I still work in the computer field, but it's just it's less stressful when you're not trapped in an office and having to commute and just having your own piece of, it's yours. You can go out there, you can shoot, your animals are running around. There's just something about it, something tangible about it something that you can call your own. Even if it's just like, a little plot of land, something that you could just put a garden or something. But it does something to your mind. Definitely something mentally, something. It calms you down. I was just really stressed out, and after moving here, I'm doing a lot better. I still stay busy, still doing a lot of stuff, but it's you don't dread getting up in the morning, having to go on with your life and do this thing. You have more options when you're. It's just kind of a total life change. We came out here and I started doing freelance computer work instead of going in 9 to 5 at a computer job. He started doing pretty much freelance carpentry. He's a carpenter. Started putting ads on Craigslist. And we've been doing, luckily, we've been doing really well. Just took a chance. Our mortgage is really low. We got rid of one of our cars because, I work from home and, he commutes, so he uses the other car. It's paid off. I would suggest to people to start cutting your bills little by little. That's what we did. Little by little, pay off that credit card. Little by little, get rid of that cell phone, maybe cut down your minutes.
Make your income more than your outgoing.
Mm-hmm. And just
I've been thinking myself about turning my cell phone off. It's funny that you say that because I pay an exorbitant amount of money each month for my cell phone, and I'm just tired of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm tired of I mean, it's convenient to have access to my email and stuff, when I'm on the road, but honestly, I'm not on the road that much, and I really don't need to be paying what I pay per month for my cell phone. I mean, it's ridiculous. I could get a little flip phone with unlimited phone minutes and then, just turn the computer crap off of the phone and, just walk around with the regular cell phone, and that's it. I don't need to have the smartphone because I have it right now, and it's getting to the point where I don't want to pay for it anymore, and I'm tired of it. I'm over it. I used to be one of these people that when a new phone came out, I would be like, I didn't go out and buy it, but I would at least be like, oh, let me check it out and see, that's cool options and stuff. And, now I don't even care. And it's been like that for a couple of years. I've lost I could care less about cell phones anymore. The smartphone I have is 2 years old. They've come out with newer versions of it since. I don't care. I'm about ready just to chuck it off a balcony and get rid of it and just get a little flip phone or something.
There you go.
Because I don't have a landline, so I would have to use the flip phone or whatever. But I would have no choice, but to use it. But I need some sort of line, like phone line, to make phone calls and stuff from. But I don't need to be. I use the GPS on it a lot. But honestly, could I go back to using a map like I used to back in the day? Yeah. I mean, it's a bit more of a pain in the butt, but do I really need to be paying what I pay for? Do I want to pay, a monthly bill to have somebody track me on my friggin' phone and figure, if they want to, the company's like, here, this is where he's gone in the past month or whatever. If I do it with a map and a pencil and a piece of paper, you'd have to literally put a tracking device on me or something to be able to figure that stuff out. So it makes it harder for them. And why do I want to pay, $120 or whatever it is I pay, with tax or whatever per month for my phone line? It's ridiculous. You're paying for the internet and you have this special hookup fee because of your phone. And well, you know what? Maybe I'm tired of my phone, and it's getting to that point. I'm about at that point. I mean, yeah, it's got conveniences. I can take pictures with it and send pictures to my wife, or, if my mother-in-law wants to see a picture of something, but I can't do that with a camera, keep a camera on me and then, just do it the old fashioned way, I guess you would say, and do it through the computer and email. How funny is it that emailing a photo is now kind of old-fashioned? It's easier to do it with your cell phone.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you guys went back out to the country and cut things out. And look, you guys didn't die. The world didn't end,
It is possible to do.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's very possible to do. That's why I'm excited to have you guys on, because it's like you guys are living proof that it can be done, and that, it's like having an ex-smoker on and saying, look, you can quit. It's okay. It's not that hard. You guys can quit the city. You can move out to the country and become sustainable, and it is possible. So that's awesome. Was it expensive to get the chickens and the goats and all that stuff?
It wasn't too bad. You just don't try to do everything at once. I think that would be the main suggestion. Do little by little. We started out with chickens. We were like, you know what? Chickens, we've read about it. Looks pretty easy. Let's get some chickens. So we got some chickens, and we're like, hey, this isn't too bad. When they're chicks, they take a little more work because, you have to make sure that they have food and water and all that. But, once they get a little bigger, it's definitely a lot easier. They take care of themselves.
I guess you don't have to worry about cleaning them or anything like that. So that's awesome. Do you guys have chickens and goats? You guys have pigs yet?
No, we have a calf, 4-week-old, sorry. Brown Angus calf.
That's going to be good steak one day.
Somebody gave her to us because she was born out of season, and our neighbor, the neighbor had the mother, and the mother wasn't producing enough milk, so she called us up and was like, well, you want her? We can't take care of her. We don't have time. And we're like, sure, give her to us. Free cow, sure. We got the room, so.
Well, if you guys ever needed to, you could always eat her, but now you don't want to eat her because you kind of feel bad for the cow. So now you just got to give her a home, and that way you get free milk. Mm-hmm.
So
and free. Well, you never know. I mean, like, if all hell breaks loose, you could always, that feeling of, oh, poor cow might go away, and then you have steak and hamburgers for a couple of weeks. So that's good too. But it's cool because now the cow will produce milk and manure, which you could turn around and use as fertilizer for plants and stuff for your garden. And I gotta tell you, if there's one thing that plants love, it's manure. Because the cow manure is full of nitrogen, so it sucks all that right out of it and just eats it. And then all of a sudden, the plants are like super plants. So, my mother used to have gardens, and where we made her gardens in her backyard in Jersey, and she taught me all this stuff. So, it's interesting. It's really interesting, but that's why I'm glad I got you guys on. Stay there. We're going to break. We'll be back. More sustainable living. We still got hour number 2. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sustainable living, sustainable living, sustainable living. Very important. Very, very important. Natasha, let me ask you this. When you guys first started, did you think it was going to be so easy? Were you kind of nervous that it was going to be overwhelming? Was it more, is it easier to do than you thought it was going to be?
Some things have been easier. Some things I honestly had no idea. I'll tell you, it hasn't all been really easy, not as easy as the chickens. When we first got our goats, we got a male and a female goat. And the male goat was determined to get out, and, he was going to get out, and he wanted to find more female goats, I think, because it was the breeding season. And he started running down the road. I mean, there's traffic. He's running down the road, and I'm chasing him with the female goat in tow behind me, trying to get his attention to come back. Because I thought he was going to just run into the woods and just run away. So finally, I'm like, all right, I'm going to stop running away from this goat. And I just looked at him, and he looked at me. I was like, okay, I'm a person. I can outsmart this goat, okay? I turned around. I started walking the other way, and he's looking at me like, hey, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going back home. And he kept walking, and he just starts running after me. And he came back to the house, and after that, we tied him up and put him back on Craigslist and sold him in like 15 minutes.
Wow! So you can sell goats. You can sell goats that fast down there, huh? On Craigslist.
Yeah. Well, we bought them for like $20, and we put them up for $15. So I mean, it's pretty cheap. The animals aren't really expensive. Not if you don't want like bloodline animals. If you're just starting out, you can get kind of like not the top notch, but just so you can get your feet wet. And then the problem is, where are you going to put them? How are you going to keep them? That's what you have to have. And that
so you have to have some place like to keep a roof over them so they don't get wet and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
goats hate water. Yeah,
goats, they need shelter. They don't like water. But,
all right, so they need shelter, and then obviously just enough, long unmowed grass for them to walk around and eat. So you need like at least an acre or two of property, I would say, to have a goat or two, so that they can, comfortably graze and eat and do their thing. Or do you like 2 goats per acre? Like, is there like some sort of mathematical solution to figure it out, or you just kind of wing it?
It depends on, you could put them on a 1/4 acre if you wanted. It's just they wouldn't have as much area to graze on. You would probably want to rotate them maybe a little bit on your pasture. You can have an electric fence, or you can have what they have like cow panels. That's the people that we actually got our goats from. They had them in a smaller area. They were living more in the city. and they had maybe like 3 or 4 goats in an area, and what they would do is just provide them with hay, maybe bring in some extra brush, give them grain, stuff like that. They're pretty easy. I mean,
it's keeping them in that's hard.
Yeah, it's what was the saying about?
Yeah, if you can throw water through the fence, then the goat can get out. Especially the males. When the females are in heat, they'll do anything and get out of anywhere.
That doesn't surprise me. It sounds like a dog. My uncle had Doberman that was the same way. Do you guys, let me ask you this. A lot of people would ask, this is a question that's not asked, but I'm sure a lot of people think about it. Do the rural areas have internet access like the cities do? Like you both, know about how, come from an area where there's, we'll say in South Florida, for example, if you were in a large city like Fort Lauderdale or Miami, you could just call your cable company up, tell them you want the super high-speed internet, the fastest one they have, and they come and they install it for you. Is that capability out in a lot of rural areas, or is it still dial-up at best?
We have HughesNet, which is the satellite internet, and it's faster than dial-up, but it's not anywhere close to high speed. So that's pretty much a mile closer to town, though, is high-speed internet. So we're just outside of the line.
Where we are now, we're talking to you, is a couple miles from our house, and they have high-speed internet. So that's why we're here and we're not at our house.
So, I mean, that's crazy that what's the big deal about running the lines out there? They literally don't have poles. I mean, obviously there's power lines going out there, so that the poles are already there. They could just run the same lines out there, and half the time it's underground. That's why they run that fiber optic crap. So what's the deal? Did they give you guys a reason they just don't go out? I mean, it almost seems like an effort to not bring out, high-speed internet access to rural areas. It doesn't make sense to me.
I don't think there's a demand for it out here. People aren't asking for it enough.
Well, I guess that would do it. I mean, I'm sure if the farmers don't care about internet, that would do it.
It might not be enough people. Maybe they're not going to make enough money. Maybe there are more people. It ends pretty much where the, isn't it like the city?
Yeah, the city.
Where the city lines end is pretty much where the internet ends, and we're out in like the rural areas.
In the county.
In the county. So like we don't pay like city taxes, we only pay county taxes.
That's so awesome. And the only thing that sucks is if you're internet based, your company, then you got to figure something out. But I'm sure, I just can't imagine how the company itself, you can't call whatever internet company and say, look, I want high speed internet. Is there a fee for, because we're out, you come out and you set up the line or whatever. It's just weird that, I know it's not as hard as they make it sound. It's just, they have high speed internet, they're trying to worry about putting it on trains and planes and everything else. And then there's still areas of the country that don't have it. It's funny how we try to outpace ourselves. Sometimes it makes you wonder if it's done on purpose. Because if they really wanted it out in the rural areas, the company would just put it out there, and eventually the people would bite. And you'd get the kids of the farmer. Hey, Dad, we can get online and maybe build a website and sell stuff online. Well, son, you're right. Wow, it's nice to have high speed internet access. Blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, even if I understand the whole thing about the need thing, and that's actually a really good point, Boris. But knowing these companies, they would just it's like throwing a fishing line in the water. And they'll just throw the line in the water and wait. So it kind of makes you wonder if they don't want people in the rural area to have access to the internet. And because everything is hooked to the internet, it's like a downside to living out there. You know what I mean? People don't want, if they have kids, well, my kid has to get on the internet, or I have to get on the internet for work. So something that would, I guess you could say, not disable them, but hinder them from doing their jobs, or hinder them with their, because they don't want to be real parents with their kids or whatever, and they just want to plop them in front of the internet and let them watch YouTube and everything else.
Their kids, exactly.
Well, exactly. That really is like a downside for a lot of people, and I know that's we might look at that thinking and be like, well, they should just be parents, but as these social engineers, as the things they do, it kind of makes you wonder if that's like how they stop people from going out there. I guess is where I was going with that. You know what I mean? Like, hey, there's no internet access out there. What are you going to do? Send up smoke signals? Ha, 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 ha. And then people are like, oh, my God, I can't get on Facebook. We can't live out here. We can't have goats.
That is a big difference from people moving out here. That's a good point.
I think they're going to have internet out here eventually, though. I don't know if it'll be through them, but I know there is a big, like the cell phone lines and everything, how you can go through the internet with your laptop. They want to have it so that you can get out in the rural areas. Since cell phones are more available in the rural areas, they could just go that way, and it'd probably be, in the end, cheaper than running lines out there.
Well, I think that's probably one of the things that's happening, too, is people are getting smartphones that live out in these farms, and they just pay, $130 a month, and they have unlimited phone and internet access and whatever else. And I'm sure a lot of these phones now, I know Sprint, I've seen the commercials. They have one of them, one of their phones, they have an HTC phone that you could turn it on and it becomes a wireless hotspot. I think it's for like 6 or 8 little computers or whatever. So obviously you're not going to be able to, have a gaming on there, but you could go on and surf the web or work online if you had to or whatever. So, a lot of these farmers probably do that. I think it would be better for everybody to have access to high-speed internet. And it's not me being one of these, putzes that, like in government, we must force high-speed internet on everybody. I'm not trying to force it, but I think it's a tool. If used in the right way, it's a tool for people to wake themselves up, educate themselves, and liberate themselves. That's just my personal opinion, and that's why they're going after the internet. That's why they're demonizing it, trying to make it bad. That's why they're also demonizing people that do what you guys are doing and live sustainably and have chickens and goats. Well, you guys must be terrorists because, you wanna have your own chicken that lays its own eggs. God forbid, Al Qaeda might come out of one of the eggs. You got to be careful. And your goat's name is Osama bin Laden, and you got to be careful because he's really a terrorist in disguise. It's just ridiculous. That's why they're demonizing all this stuff. That's why it's important for people to learn about it and learn what really goes on and how easy it is, and at least put the idea in their heads. Hopefully that'll lead them down the track of at least looking into it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to the top of the hour break. We'll be back in about 6-7 minutes, so stay tuned. We're back with hour number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for hour number 2. This is Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com. I'm hanging out with my friends Boris and Natasha, who are now residing in Virginia, but they used to live in the big bad city. And now they're residing out somewhere in an undisclosed location in the countryside. And we were able to fix their microphone, so now I can hear her much better, and I can hear Boris much better, and you guys will be able to hear both of them much better. So that was a technical problem which we seem to have overcome. What would you guys say is a good place to start for somebody who's just getting into this? Where's a good place to start, if, say, someone has an apartment, they haven't yet gotten a chance to move out into the countryside, but they want to at least start some sort of type of, growing their own food or whatever, or, they want to at least start to get into it. What would be a good starting point that you would recommend for someone that maybe doesn't have a big plot of land, but maybe they have a balcony or something that they can grow some plants?
I would definitely say to get started, if you have a balcony, you can get an herb garden going on. Think about what things you use when you cook. The idea is for you to have to bring in less things into your house, and you can provide for yourself. So, you can get some parsley going, some oregano, some basil, some garlic, all those things that you tend to buy a lot of when you're cooking. At least I do. I cook a lot. So, you can dry them. You can get even some small, if you wanted to get some small quail. I don't know how big your balcony is, but the quail, they don't take that much room, and you could have maybe 1 or 2 female quail. They lay an egg almost every day. 3 quail egg equal about 1 chicken egg, and they're really hardy. They don't eat a whole lot. And you can, if you breed them, you can eat their young if you eat meat. Or if you only eat dairy, you can eat the eggs. And I would say that you start not only learning about how to grow something in your garden, but also learn about how you need to plan if, something happens and you need to, let's say a catastrophe happens. You make sure that you have storable food in addition to your balcony food. You have some kind of, you can start buying in bulk, like flour, grain, start buying, sugar, salt, things like that, like you see on sale, cans of food that maybe is on sale for $1. Just start buying it little by little and building up your pantry. I think that's really important for people because, as you see, like you got these freak snowstorms. It doesn't even have to be the New World Order. But I think that's important for people. Learn basic first aid, have a first aid kit, especially if you're out in a rural area, or if you're in the city as well. It's good to have so you are prepared. Get a ham radio, get a regular radio, even just a battery-powered radio. If the internet goes out, how are you going to know what's going on outside? There's no TV. You know how it is living in Florida. I think that's important too, to, get your balcony going and also little by little start preparing for something, because I definitely think that something's coming down the pipes.
You can feel it in your bones, right? Like something's going to happen. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it's going to be, but something is going to happen. And this is the same collective feeling that everybody had before 9/11. So they're up to something.
Yeah. And get to know your neighbors, because those are going to be the people that you're going to have to depend on. Just with our experience with the hurricanes living in Florida, everybody starts having to barbecue outside because everything's going to go bad in your fridge if you don't cook it. And you can't watch TV. All of a sudden, everybody's disconnected from the TV, and it's like, oh wow, that's what my neighbors look like, and and it was just so strange. Like you can't really go anywhere because you can't drive because you can't really get that much gas.
Down here, people were trading candles and stuff for meat. Like you give me a hamburger, I'll give you a candle and stuff, and that's the way we were. And that's the way it was working for like a week and a half, 2 weeks until everybody got their power back. There was more. The cops were probably causing more problems than anything down here because they were arresting everybody and everybody for being out past curfew. And it's amazing. They decided that there was going to be a curfew of 8 o'clock at night, and if you weren't in by 8 o'clock at night, they were literally they arrested hundreds of people every night. And people would be like, this is the United States of America. What is it, Nazi Germany? I could walk around, and they're like, no, you're beyond curfew. Pepper spraying people, tasing people, whooping people's asses, all for just being out past 8 o'clock at night. So it's amazing how fast these drones are willing to take away someone's civil liberties. That's why it was nice to see when you told that story the first hour about how the owners before you guys of the house that you guys bought, that the neighbors called the cops for them shooting on their property because they were making noise, and the cops rolled up and said, we can't do a thing, and went down and shot with them.
Exactly.
That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it should be. That's a perfect example of the way it should be. You're not supposed to have a cop be like, well, I'll go down there and take them guns because I don't care if it's their property or not. I'm the law and I can do what I want because I think I know what's right. No, that's not the way it works. And it's good that those cops actually knew what the law was, and that they understood it and respected it. That's the other key thing.
And they knew each other, so that's the whole thing about community as well.
Exactly.
Good point. Good point,
Everybody knows
Boris.
each other here too.
Well, that's important. I mean, how are you supposed to survive if you don't know your neighbor? You know, the last thing you want to be doing is getting to know your neighbor, you know, after the fact. It's like I said, we had a lot of...
People don't think about it, but it's like, you know, you really got to get to know your neighbors because you're going to have to depend on each other.
In a scenario where you wouldn't want someone breaking onto your property, stealing what you have, instead, you get to know everybody so that doesn't happen, so nobody has to steal from everybody else.
They'll protect your property too. Hey, who the hell are you? What are you doing on, you know, what are you doing on Bob's property? You get the hell off there. You don't belong on there, you know, or whatever. You know, I mean, that's the way it works. That's the way you want. You want to be a working, cohesive unit. There's no reason you should fear your neighbor. The government wants you to fear your neighbor. They want you to think that, you know, your neighbor is Osama bin Laden, you know, and oh my God, he's going to come get you. He's a terrorist, damn it. He's a terrorist because he grows his own food. He's a terrorist. It's retarded. You know, my friends busted my balls when Wilma came through here, and I put up wood on the windows and everything, and I went and got a couple large pizzas from the pizzeria down the street, and they were like, what's that for? And I'm like, pizza will last 3, 4, 5 days without going bad. I'm like, you know, I'm like, you can't do that with meat or anything else. And they were like, well, I don't think we're going to need it. It's not going to be that bad. After the storm came through, they were like, wow, dude, can we come by your place? Because some of their places, their windows were, you know, blown open, or some of them didn't have any power or food, you know, nothing. Everybody was like, we don't have any food. We didn't prepare. We don't have any candles. We don't have anything. And they were all busting my balls beforehand, but afterwards, everybody wanted to come hang out with me.
That's
you know,
right.
Popeye, can we come over and hang out, dude? Because we don't have anything. And I was like, you can come over, but I ain't giving you my food. I mean, the food that I gave out was and we used up, you know, with everybody was the stuff that was going to go bad in the refrigerators. But anything that could keep, I didn't give that out. I kept that because that had to sustain me once we got past that. And within, you know, after a hurricane comes by, within the first 5-6 hours of the storm having passed, they rape the food stores and stuff. There's no coal, there's no little grills, there's none of that crap. They come and take everything. So if the power goes out, if there's a massive snowstorm, doesn't matter where you live, doesn't matter if you have to worry about hurricanes or not. What about earthquakes? What about tornadoes? What about, you know, don't worry about just the New World Order. Worry about natural disasters too, because they happen as well. Be prepared. We're going to break, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We were talking about throwing out your cell phones. We were talking about getting back to a simpler way of life. Sustainable living. Growing your own food. Even if you live in an apartment. You heard Natasha tell you exactly how you could get around that and perhaps grow your own food. At least try, start. Maybe even have some quail, small birds, and tell them, yeah, they're my pet birds. They don't know what you're doing with them as long as they don't see you. You know, the best thing I can tell you, if you're going to do that and it's in an apartment complex, you just, if you're going to keep them out on the balcony, it's easier to have an apartment up higher up, because the higher floors, it's harder for them to see from the ground, and it would hard for them to be tell what kind of bird it is, and then you could bring them in the house if you had to in the apartment. There are certain ways to get around it. Obviously, everybody's case, each and every one is kind of a case-by-case basis, but it can be done.
Rabbits are good too.
Is it what I know people eat rabbit, but what else besides eating it can the rabbit do? Like, is it a multifunctional animal like the goat?
If you have like lawn or pasture, then I guess it would be multifunctional. You could use the droppings for fertilizer as well. But if you're on a balcony, I'd say you just meat pretty much.
Well, you could use the litter from the balcony, and then if you have a garden, something in your balcony, you could use the compost from the rabbit.
We had
Set
rabbits as pets when I was a kid.
A little bit. You know.
I had pet rabbits when I was a kid. We had rabbit coops in my backyard.
Oh my God, but they breed like crazy. I mean, I think I read something. a pair of rabbits can literally in a year produce 600 pounds of meat.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Get that around your head. Those two little rabbits.
Start with two and that's all you need.
That's how much they,
Oh, that's where the expression screwing like rabbits comes from.
That's right. And you can stack them too in cages, fit them pretty good.
You can sell the extra ones for money.
Yeah, exactly. And pet stores will need them.
You can sell them on Craigslist.
Depending on which ones you get, they go for pretty good. $30 a piece, some of them. So
some of them go 40, 45, 50, depending on the breeds. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, according to one of the chatters brought it up in the chat room. He said, Popeye, growing food is against the law. Of course it is. That's why they don't want you to be able to grow your own food, because they're afraid of that. They want you to have to buy their GMO big pharma crap that they produce.
That's right.
They want you to buy Monsanto's Terminator seeds. They want you to buy, GMO fish. They want you to buy spider goat and eat spider goat. They don't want you to have regular goat. They want you to have spider goat. So now you can't drink the milk, but hey, you could make Kevlar out of it. So,
well, imagine if you had 30 rabbits or something, or like quail, and things go under, and somebody needs something, you can barter with a couple rabbits and you can get something else that you need, some milk or eggs or bread or
I
whatever.
have talents that I know.
You can't eat your gold coin at that point,
I have
that's what I think about.
I have trades. Trades are a good thing to know. I think everybody should learn at least one trade. I have multiple trades under my belt.
Definitely.
And I suggest you use them. Because not only can they help you that way with bartering and stuff, but hey, like when things go wrong at my place, I don't even buy. So I'm kind of stuck up about this, I guess. I pay my rent, and it includes maintenance. So, I make them. If I'm paying for it, you're going to do it. But their maintenance program where I live sucks so bad that I end up fixing the stuff myself usually. And most of the apartments in Miami are like that. Natasha, how Miami is. A lot of times the landlords are dirtbags, so you have no choice but to fix stuff yourself. I mean, I lived in one place, my whole closet collapsed. It was those crappy wire shelves. And one side collapsed, and because they were all connected, as soon as one side went, the whole thing went around like dominoes right around the inside of the closet, and it was a walk-in closet, and it literally ripped them right out of the walls. So now I had these huge holes in the sheetrock and everything else. Day and a half later, I had a brand new closet built with wooden shelves and dowel rods for hangers to hang your stuff on. Not some crappy wire shelves. It was all old school wooden shelves and dowels and everything. And that's the way it should be. Okay, and I built a nice strong closet. Day and a half, I was able to fix the whole thing. I went and got all the supplies. Cut the wood over at Home Depot, had them cut it for me, gave them the measurements and everything I needed. Did what I had to do. And I had it done. And I'm a disabled vet. So if I could do it, there's no excuse why somebody else can't do it. There's no reason why you can't go learn carpentry, basic carpentry. Go learn how to measure a piece of friggin' wood. I mean, I've said this before on my other shows. I think it's appalling that more women know how to change tires than men.
Wow, really?
It's off. It's very sad. When I worked for AAA, there was more chicks that would be trying to change their tire on the side of the road than men. And there are more women that know how to change tires than men. And that's mainly because a lot of these chicks, they had fathers who, when they got their license, they made them learn how to change a tire. And even if they didn't teach them, they taught them how to check the oil and change a tire. That was like the basics.
So what, screw boys?
Most boys, a lot of boys, sometimes their parents teach them, but parents, I think, used to, back in the day, they took for granted there used to be auto shop in high school, and wood shop and stuff. So a lot of this basic carpentry stuff was taught. Yep. Not anymore.
Exactly right.
All that good stuff was taken out, and then they left math and social studies and all the other stuff, and now that's not even taught. Now they just teach them whatever they have to pass these No Child Left Behind tests, and then the kids graduate high school and literally they can't even add. I mean, it's and that's not an exaggeration. A friend of my mother-in-law's is a teacher. She's been teaching for over 30 years. She's quitting this year. She's retiring because she's tired. She says, from when I started till now, these children are so stupid. She's like, these kids are graduating and they literally don't know what 5 + 5 is. They don't know basic history because they're not being taught this stuff anymore. They're just being taught what they need to know to pass these tests.
Exactly.
So,
and I wonder I remember when I was in middle school, they had wood shop. I wonder if they still have that anymore.
No, it's all gone, dude. They removed all of it. I had wood shop. I had metal shop. We had auto shop. It's all gone. They took that out. Then they started removing the arts programs like art and music. Anything that gets your, both sides of your brain going, okay? Anything that gets even just the left side of your brain going, the non-reptilian side of your brain.
Yeah.
They banned all that, and then they give you the only thing that's left is the only thing they leave you is like basic science and math and stuff. And Bob Tuskin said in the chat room that they still have the Photoshop classes. I didn't know that. I figured by now they would have taken that out too, because that would teach attention to detail, and I'm sure they don't want that. So I'm surprised that, thank you to Bob for pointing that out. I'm surprised that they actually still have the photo classes, but they took out the metal class. We had metal shop. I made crowbars. I still have my crowbar that I made in metal shop. It was just like 20-something years ago, dude, and you could take doors off of hinges with it. Not anymore. They don't teach metal shop, wood shop. My mother, when she died back in the end of 2003, we cleaned her house out. She still had magazine racks that my brother and I had built in wood shop. It cracked me up. I was like, wow, I built this thing 10 years ago. And here it is. I'm looking at this thing like, wow, holy crap. It was very weird for me. To know what they've done to the educational system is sickening. It's very sad. Kids aren't taught anything anymore. Like I said the other night, kids can't even change. Men can't change tires. Women are taught because their fathers at least had some brains in their head. It's all the same. Go on the break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. If you hear any barking or growling in the background, that is my little guard dog, Monster, here. She's being rather loud. Normally she's a good girl while I'm on air, but she's being rather loud suddenly. So if you hear any barking or grunting in the background, though, that's not me. And no, I'm not doing any weird experiments in the background. That's just my little munchkin running around. All right. So I have a question. If someone doesn't have a lot of money and they live in the city, but they want to move out to the country, how would you, either one of you, recommend that they go about starting this? Because I know that's going to be a question asked. How do we start this? How do we take that first step? Because that first step is probably the biggest one. And then everything else kind of just starts to follow, and fall into place. How do you go about taking that first step?
Well, if your first step is getting out of the city and into the country, I'd start looking places like Craigslist and other kind of places where you can find good deals on land, owner financing like we were talking about. Because there's lots of people who are willing to work with you, give you a good interest rate and, for a reasonable down payment too. So just start doing your research that way, make a plan, have a kind of an outline, I guess, of what you want to do.
You could also post an ad on Craigslist in maybe the areas that you want to move to, where it seems that has properties that are available that might be in your price range. You could post an ad and say, hey, I'm looking for a fixer-upper in this price range, looking for owner financing, please contact me. And
that's what it's called, owner financing. So that's what they should, yeah. They should somehow try to find owner financing, it's called, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And it'd be nice if you could get somebody that'll give you owner financing who has a house that's paid off. Because then you don't have to worry about the bank coming and taking the house away from them and then taking it away from you. There might be something legally you can prevent from happening. I'm not sure, but it would be good that the person would have the house paid off. It would be good, I would say.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to have to deal with foreclosures and the bank and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people that do have their properties paid off. So.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people in the country, a lot of older people that,
it's inherited land.
Yeah, people that don't want to inherit the land, people who have gone off and are now living in the city, don't want to take care of, grandma, grandpa's property, and they just sell it and it's paid off. And
it's because it's such a horrible real estate market right now. They're willing to not deal with the banks. They're willing to do the owner financing because they'd rather say screw the banks, which is awesome because if you can just cut the bank out, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at a place that had a trailer home that was a pretty decent size. It was small, would be good for about 2 or 3 people, maybe 2 people with a child. And it had wood floors, and it had about 10 acres, and it was only $25,000, and the person would be willing to do owner financing, and probably with not a whole lot down. And I'm pretty sure that house was paid off. So I would hook up with a realtor maybe in the area where you want to live and tell them your price range, and give them your contact information. If they don't have anything, they can contact you if something does come up. If you have a cousin or a brother maybe that knows about carpentry that can help you out to do some of the repairs, if you might be able to find a house that's in good shape for a reasonable price with the economy the way it is. Or maybe you could just buy a piece of land and build your own structure. You can make houses out of Connex boxes, the ones they use, they put on trains where they carry maybe gravel or food or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? The big metal boxes, the Connexes.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about.
The storage containers. Well, anyways, there have been people that have been using those as building materials, and you can save like a lot on your building costs when you use those. And you can get them used, or you can get them new.
I agree. You could
start building it little by little.
It does help you save money and build some sustainable structures. That's pretty cool. What have you seen? Like, what's some of the stuff that you've seen being used other than storage containers and stuff like that?
They have what they're called yurts. They're these dome structures. They look like almost like this geometric kind of pattern, and it's like a dome. And they have those. You could even put a big tent if you really wanted to rough it and, find a way, put in a septic system so at least you have an outhouse, or maybe just build an outhouse and,
just dig a hole.
Yeah, just dig a hole. The house that we just bought, like the generation before us, they just had an outhouse. And they just went, or you can get a composting toilet. You can get those for a pretty reasonable price. And, set up pretty low. It depends on how low you want to go. You can do it if you really want to and you want to rough it for a while. You can do it. It's just
you'll find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, and just work little by little at eliminating your debt. That is the main thing I would say. Little by little, start chunking away at your debt. Have a plan. Make a 1-year plan and a 5-year plan. During your 1-year plan, start doing your balcony garden. Start storing food. Start looking in areas where you want to live. Start eliminating your debt.
Yeah.
Little by little, start looking for ways that you can make money on your own. So if you're going to be living out in the country, you can kind of find a way that you can make money without having to rely on a 9-to-5 job. Whether it's making something, crafts, you cut hair, you want to open your own shop.
That goes back to the whole trade. If you live out in the country, you could always, put up if you have a space, you could always put up or if you have a shed or whatever, you could eventually make something that you could have a little shop or whatever on the side that that's where you have people come, and if they need to come see you, they can mail you stuff or come visit you or whatever. And there is ways to get around it. But they're trying very rapidly to close all that off. And first, what they have to do is they have to make everybody believe that that's abnormal and that kind of behavior is strange and only terrorists do that. And once they marginalize everybody, then they can round people up. But first, they got to marginalize everybody and make the general public, the sheep, think that anybody that can sustain themselves and doesn't need the electric company or doesn't need to go to Winn-Dixie or Publix, every couple days to get food, that they must be weird because they can take care of themselves. That's odd. Right. I need a nanny. And that's why they demonize people like that. That's why it's important that, people hear how easy it is to do it so that they go and take that step and more people do it.
People like that.
Exactly. People like that because they're free thinkers. They might actually grow a chicken or raise chickens rather, or grow plants or grow their own food. And God forbid they don't buy Terminator seeds, or God forbid they actually, know how to grow their own food. Oh my God, the cattle know how to take care of themselves. Oh, what do we do? That's basically how they look at it. They're really afraid of people coming into their own and waking up and realizing and coming out of this trance, this Walking Dead type trance that they're in. And they don't want that.
No, they don't.
Really don't want that. No, I don't. You can see they don't. Let me ask you guys this, because we got a couple minutes before we go into break, and then when we come back, we have one segment left. In fact, I'll aim it at Boris. As a guy, do you see how they've taken the men or the man out of men? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They've made men. It's not okay if you know how to chop wood or build a fire. That's strange. That's weird, crazy wood people type thing that do that. Like basic stuff that you should know to be a man and being a man. Have you noticed that they've attacked that?
That's disappearing faster and faster. It's becoming, you can see it on TV and the movies and stuff. They dress men up in women's clothes all the time now.
Every movie there's a guy dressed up in a women's dress as a gag. Yeah. You notice that?
Yeah, they're taking sissifying America, like somebody wrote in the chat room earlier. So,
how is it in the country by you? Do you notice that people still, men know how to change tires and go hunting and stuff like that and protect their family?
Outrageous conspiracy theories.
So that's good. At least there's still people in the country that know.
Lies that attempt to
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break. We will be right back.
Away from the guilty.
F you, George W. Bush. You are a war criminal.
Yo, Gemini, what's your
and you will slink one day. This battery will get unplugged.
As I continue to blame the Knights Templar and the Hospitallers, the railways in New York lost their towers.
We'll be right back.
Don't sit back or hesitate to react to the impact. Many taking a nap. In fact, they would fake an attack to make way for the patriot.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen, for the final segment. As I was telling Natasha before we went on air, she said, I don't know if I'm going to have enough to talk about for 2 hours. I said to her, I hear that every time someone comes on.
I know.
And she was worried that it was going to be really long, and it just flew right by. That's the way it always works. You get something interesting, you talk about something interesting, you blink, and the next thing you know, the show's over. We got about 10 minutes, so I want to get your take on the local area there, because you guys got cut off. What's the local area like? Are they somewhat awake to what's going on? Does anybody think that, do they still buy the 19 Muslims from the cave, in Afghanistan with a laptop thing? Are people starting to wake up and see what's up with the New World Order? What's going on?
As far as people's politics go, we haven't really delved into that. As people are, like the guy behind us, his father owned the land, and he lives like right to the back of us. He was in the military and everything, and I think he's kind of aware a little bit of what's going on. So he builds guns and stuff. It's pretty cool. So
he's into the
nice
Second
neighbor to
Amendment.
have.
yeah.
Well, but does he know about the Constitution? I guess I mean, like, do they understand their rights at least somewhat around there? Do they still practice their freedom around where you guys live? Do they still, do people play with their guns like they should? Are men still men, or has it reached its evil tentacles into the that far into the countryside?
I think it's trying to. Since we've lived here, I think they got 4 new cops. So there used to be, I think, 4 or 5, and now there's 8 or 9. So that's a big jump for here. I know it sounds funny somewhere else, but
no, that's like a 40, almost 50% rise in the police force.
Exactly. So as far as the new cops, I don't really know much about. My mom owns a barbershop in town, so she kind of gets the gist on what's going on. But men pretty much raise their children the way they're supposed to. Their boys, they do it right.
They teach their boys to be men, and the men act like men. That's good, and everybody practices their at least some of their constitutional rights. I would assume it's probably more of a conservative area than a.
I think so, yeah.
Than a liberal area, but
the thing is that women, as far as homesteads are concerned and farms, especially, women did just as much hunting. Women did just as much of the things that men did. One of my friends, when she was growing up, her parents, they rarely actually saw money. They bartered. They bought in occasionally flour, and her mother could hunt and kill a buck and skin it and cut it up and cook it and eat it. I mean, she knew how to do everything, and that's how people were. Some people still are. You can all your food. Keep it in the basement. You eat seasonal vegetables. You have a greenhouse. And it's more of a community. If somebody comes over, let's say your uncle comes over, well, they know that they're going to be partaking in whatever your family's doing at the time, whether it's baking or, taking care of the goats or building a fence or whatever. They'll grab a hammer and start building the fence with you and be like, hey, what's up, Oh, yeah, we're building this fence. And then maybe later on you'll go over to their house and help them out with something. It's just like a real sense of community, and everybody kind of does their share.
That's how we're going to defeat the New World Order.
Huh?
That's how we're going to win. That's exactly how we're going to win. Doing what you and your husband are doing. Exactly what you guys are doing. That's how we're going to win. You guys are grassroots networking. You're building cohesive, strong relationships with your neighbors and your community. And that's the way it should be. And see, that's what they don't want. That's why they push this urban living where nobody likes to. Because in the cities, nobody wants to get to know each other. Everybody's sketchy. Nobody wants to know one another. They avoid each other like the plague, right?
Everybody's in a hurry. Everybody's got to get somewhere. Everybody's got to do something. Everybody's, you're running out of time. You don't have enough time in the city. You live in the country.
That too. Damn it, I don't have enough time.
There's more time.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Things slow down out here.
Yeah. I mean, you still have a lot of things to do. You wake up, early and you're doing stuff all day, but it's just different.
You enjoy what you're doing, you're not dreading it.
Yeah, you love it. I think that's one of the ways we're going to cure this cancer. Is homeopathic treatment like that, like moving out to the countryside and getting back in touch with nature and recharging your spiritual energy. We have to do this because there's so many levels that they're dehumanizing us on, and they're getting to eat processed foods and take vaccines and not care about your neighbor, and not worry about anybody, not want to talk to your neighbor. And I think living like you guys are living is the exact antithesis to what the New World Order wants. And that's why I wanted to bring you guys on the show. I wanted people to be able to hear that it is completely possible to go from the city to the countryside, and it doesn't take this vast, leap of, oh my God, are we going to make it? You can do it. It's not as hard as you think. And it's much easier than you really think it is. And, people, I think that's the biggest thing. One of the biggest things that stops people is they build it up in their mind, just like anything else. They build that doubt about it up. Can I do it? Is it going to be hard? Blah, 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 blah. And they build up all these mental blocks, and there's no need for it.
No,
and you guys are living proof that it's really easy. And I commend you guys for doing what you're doing. I think it's awesome.
Well, we're having a great time doing it.
It kind of sucks that you don't really have like super high speed internet, but you got to make sacrifices, right?
That's right.
I mean, it's okay. You guys, I'm sure you guys could adjust, but I really think it's something that people need to think about. And if you can't, I don't expect people to just tomorrow pack their stuff, quit their job, move out to the country, and be like, "Well, you told me to, Popeye."
Do your research first.
Lots of research.
Exactly. Well, how much you guys spent months, obviously, checking things out before you went out there, correct?
Yeah,
We've spent years, pretty much.
Probably years dreaming about it, and then
planning and.
I mean, a lot of people. You talk to a lot of people. Oh, you have a farm. I've always wanted to do that. That's a dream. That's really nice, but they can't conceptualize
follow through with that.
Follow through with it. It's just kind of like. It's kind of this dream that, and then by the time you get old and you die and, you just never do it.
Get it done. Well, that's why I commend you guys, because you actually physically manifested something that you dreamt about doing and having. And I think that is commendable and one of the most awesome things anybody could do. And again, I want you guys to be an example of what can be done with, some effort, but you don't have to spend $1 bazillion to do it. You don't have to, you don't have to, I guess you do have to kind of change your life, but you don't have to radically, give everything up that you believe in or that you do or anything to go out and just live in the countryside and be free, be able to, get away from the city and get away from all that tension and that stress that's constantly pushed into the body. And again, that dehumanizes you because you're so around people all the time that you just get sick of them and you're like, God, shut up. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, whereas, exactly.
Getting out in the country, you're like, hey, Tim, I haven't seen you in 3 days.
People wave
How are
each
you?
Mm-hmm. Everybody waves. Everybody says hi.
It's nice.
I think that's awesome. We need to get back to that. That's one of the ways we're going to defeat this is getting our humanity back. Because that's what makes people start to care about, getting involved or getting angry. You have to have humanity first. And they've robbed that from so many people that people, they see someone getting stabbed in the street, they don't care. Whatever, I don't want to get involved,
Exactly.
I don't want to get involved, I could get sued or... that's why we have to have tort reform. There's a lot of things we do need. We got to get rid of these BS lawyers. We got to make, BS lawsuits, should be illegal because they clog up the system. And then you have problems like that. People don't want to get involved anymore because they don't want to get sued. And they start to, again, they allow this litigious society to help get rid of their humanity. If you see someone dying or bleeding in the street, try to help them out. Do what you can do. Don't just walk over the guy and continue on about your day. That's a scumbag maneuver, you know what I mean? And it's the same thing on a grassroots level. Build a relationship with your neighbor. You never know.
That's what they want. They want people to file frivolous lawsuits against each other and hate each other and just, not be able to resolve issues one-to-one, neighbor to neighbor. You have to call the cops. You can't just go talk to each other and work things out. I mean, my neighbor, when we were shooting, she came over just to kind of check on us and see which direction we were shooting to make sure we weren't shooting towards her property, and we were like, hey, what's up? We gave her some eggs. She was
you get to meet your neighbors. You build a little rapport with them. That's good. Boris, Natasha, guys, we're out of time. Let me know when your book comes out, and I will have you guys back on to talk about the book and everything. But I hope the listeners enjoyed the show. Guys, thanks for listening. I'll be back Wednesday, and tomorrow, don't forget, WTF, 10 to 12.
Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sunday, November 6, 2011. This is Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com.
For yourself, that would be a homestead. You might decide that maybe a homestead isn't for you. You want to buy things in the store still, but you want to be able to provide your own milk. So you want some dairy goats, and maybe you want a couple eggs, so you want some chickens. It's really up to you what you want to do. As far as finding land, once you decide what it is that you want, then you can buy the amount of land in the house that would cater to whatever it is you're trying to do. You might want to have the land so you can do some kind of business, so you can make money while you're there with this land. You could maybe do something from home where you work from home, and you have the land as a supplemental income.
Well, how you were telling me that some people were financing it, right? There's a lot of people that don't even want to deal with the banks anymore because of their distrust for the banks, and it's actually starting to go back to the way things used to be, in the older days. So basically, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of these people they're selling their farms and stuff or whatever, or their properties, but rather than go through the bank, they work out a deal, a contract, obviously, on paper, but a better one nonetheless because the banks aren't involved. And basically, you'd be paying off the owner of the property monthly, like you were paying rent, but you'd literally be paying off the monthly mortgage payment, for lack of a better term. And a lot of owners are doing that, you said, correct?
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that, especially out here. People want to get rid of their houses, so they're providing owner finance. And
so that's what it's called, owner financing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
exactly.
I couldn't remember the name of it, but I knew it was called something. Is there once you get the place and everything, how hard is it to maintain the chickens and the goats? I mean, realistically, because people are going to ask this question. So, I mean, is it expensive, monthly with the feed? Is it a real pain in the rear end? Or how much effort does it take to actually do this? Because some people are going to be, well, I have to work, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. So you both have jobs. So how do you find time, or does it take a bunch of your time? How do you fit it into your schedule with everything and still working like like normal, like most people, where you both have jobs? How do you fit it in?
Well, depending on what size of a operation you want to go for, the chickens are relatively easy and low maintenance. As long as you have a good shelter for them to go in at night, we let them run free pretty much throughout the whole property.
I like to see that people can exercise their Second Amendment. I grew up around guns. I grew up hunting and stuff. But everywhere I've ever lived and most places I've seen, and I have friends that even live out in rural areas, you can't shoot on your property anymore because for one reason or another, they try to find some reason to demonize you. And again, like you guys stated, the neighbor was being some nanny, wimpy, whiny. Oh, they're shooting guns and making noise. Make them stop. And the cop's like, we can't do anything. That's good. I'm glad that it's still like that. I'm glad this country hasn't gone that far down the tubes yet. So it gives me a little hope.
They were city folk, as they put them. The ones that were complaining were from the city, so it was funny because all the country people were laughing at them because they're just like, look at these city folk.
Well, it's funny, when you come from a city, like when you've been in the city for a while, it's amazing that even when you know things exist, you see things that should be the norm, and you're like, wow, it's so nice to be able to be normal. It's really strange. That's where the world is going to nowadays. All right, guys, we're going to get cut off by the break, so stay there. Listeners, stay tuned. We'll be right back. More solutions on the other side. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm hanging out with Boris and Natasha, who were urbanites. They lived in the city. Now they are living out in the country, and very sustainably, I may add. Real sustainable living. Not this fake, green, fake, agenda crap, but real, actual sustainable living. And the first thing I wanted to get into with them was the whole how do you get the farm thing, because not many people have money. And Natasha was explaining to me that there's a lot of people that are actually like almost financing to buy, rather than pay rent. You pay the monthly rent, but you're literally paying the property off while you live on it. So I wanted to get into that a little bit because not many people know about it. I'm not really an expert on it, and Natasha herself does know, a decent amount about it. So, Natasha, how do people go about this, and what exactly is the process?
Well, pretty much it's up to you as to, what do you want to do? Do you want a homestead, whereas you want to bring in as little as possible from the outside world, and you want to provide everything?
Today, I am joined by some special guests, and I'm excited because usually my shows are uncovering the nasty side of things, and today is going to be a little lighter. It's actually going to be about solutions, which a lot of the listeners like to learn about. And my guests today have actually done it themselves. They've gone from city living to sustainable living in the countryside. And I couldn't think of two better people to bring on and explain and talk and just go over this stuff. And hopefully you guys will glean some sort of knowledge from this. So get your pads and your pens out. Make sure you check the archive for the stream and pay attention today, because today's show is going to be good. Now, I want to introduce you to them, but I want to cover something really quick. Their names are not made up. Their names are real, okay? And I have no control over their names. So it's going to sound funny when you hear me introduce their names, because it's Popeye introducing two other people that, you know, they sound like people might relate to them and say, oh, it sounds like fake names, but they're not. Okay, so it just so happens that that's the way it is. Sorry, but that's the way life is sometimes, you know. Anyway, I'd like to introduce Natasha and Boris. Say hello, guys.
Hey, what's up, Popeye?
How's it going?
You guys are writing a book, before I forget. You guys are writing a book about all this, correct?
Yeah, we're writing,
Okay.
It's about the New World Order, the first book, because we're trying to keep it not too big, and then the second book will be about the stuff we're talking about tonight.
Okay. Do you guys have a working title for it yet, or no?
Not yet.
Okay, that's not a big deal. So I know most of the time authors don't come out with the title until sometimes right beforehand anyway. So I want to get right into it. You, Natasha, used to live down here in Florida, and in South Florida in particular, in a very city-esque, busy area down here. And now you live a rather rural life with chickens and goats and the such. How much of a culture shock was it for you, and how were you able to get over it so that the listeners can glean some knowledge, so that maybe they can use, you know, the tips that you have maybe to get through it? How did you get through the culture shock of going from the city to the countryside like that?
I dealt with it pretty well. I was pretty sick of South Florida. I hated living in the concrete jungle. Before I moved, I didn't want to like leave my house, because I was just like so over it. But so I actually transitioned pretty well. I mean, it takes a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it. Definitely.
When you guys went out there, was it you know, like obviously you were in the mood to get out. Give the listeners an idea kind of what's a good way, like when you got out there, before you guys went, obviously you guys didn't just run out there with nothing. You know, you figured at least a plan of action out until you got out there. Was it that hard? I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's so difficult to alter your life and stuff like that. Did you find that it really wasn't that hard to do it and alter your life?
No, I don't think it was hard. I think it was interesting and fun so far. Going from, you know, living in a place where there's 100,000 people, and then going out to a place where there's 2,000 people, I think there is now out here. So it's peaceful.
See, that's I know the difference. I've seen both ends, and I think it's an awesome juxtaposition. But I guess if you're ready to do it, it's probably much easier. Now, you guys have your own goats and chickens and everything. You guys even shoot on your own property. The county or the city that you guys live in, they don't mess with you?
No. The place where we're living, the people before were shooting, and the neighbors didn't like it. So they called the police, and the police came by and asked, you know, what the problem was. said they're making a racket back there shooting. They're like, oh, okay, what's the problem? They're like, well, we want you to make them stop. So they ended up going back there and shooting with the people who were, shooting, pretty much telling the neighbors that there's nothing they could do about it. They're on their own land.
Yeah.
So the cops ended up shooting the people that were shooting there.
Yep.
That's the way it should be.
Exactly.
You see, that's the way it's supposed to be. So good. There are some pockets of this country that are still the way they're supposed to be. Because, of course, it figures you guys had to have the neighbor. Oh, and somebody in the chat room said Popeye sounds like a city boy. No, I grew up in the verge between the city and the country, and I've experienced both. But I'm used to the city, and in a lot of places, even rural areas, a lot of the sheriffs and local cops are now being dicks and cracking down on people that even shoot on their own property. So it is still nice to see that there are pockets of this country that still have things the way they should be. It's nice to see that total tyranny hasn't taken place. I do like to